The wind carried a bitter scent of iron and rain when Dr. Elias Rourke stepped off the skimmer shuttle and gazed across the valley that used to be his. The horizon was wrong. Once, it had been a stretch of wild emerald forest, his living laboratory, a self-sustaining ecosystem that he had designed from soil to sky. Now it gleamed in the sterile light of civilization. Rows of identical domes glittered like bubbles across the hillsides, each one pulsing faintly with artificial light. 35 homes, or as the corporate banners proudly declared, the Hydrangea Estates, sustainable living for the elite. His boots crunched on the gravel of the overlook platform. Beyond the mist, he saw the dam. His dam, a curved wall of alloy and basalt rising from the valley floor. It was supposed to be dormant, sealed under his authority. Yet there it stood, humming faintly with a new rhythm. He could feel it through his bones. Something was wrong. He had been gone 10 years. That was the part that ate at him the most. 10 years working off-world, helping terraform Mars, building systems that could create rivers from dust. When he left, he had locked this land with biometric encryption, filed every ownership record with the Planetary Environmental Bureau. But the HOA, the Housing Oversight Authority, as they called themselves, had found a way to override even that. He pulled out his datapad and scrolled through the property records. They were a joke. The registry listed the new development as unclaimed rewilded land, annexed for green community housing. His name appeared once, faintly in an old archive, marked deceased. His jaw tightened. Someone had erased him. Elias made his way down the gravel path toward the valley, passing through the towering mesh fences and drone checkpoints. The air here was too perfect, the kind of purity engineered for luxury buyers. Even the birds were synthetic, flocks of glittering wings that chirped in pre-programmed melodies. They didn't recognize him. The forest didn't either. At the gate to Hydrangea Estates, a guard drone floated forward, scanning his face. Identification, it droned in an emotionless tone. Dr. Elias Rourke, he replied, steady. Owner of this property. The drone whirred for a moment, then emitted a polite tone. This land is under management of the Central HOA District. Please contact corporate offices for disputes. Yeah, Elias muttered, brushing past it. I'll do that after I take a look at what you've stolen. The homes were pristine, identical white domes framed by vertical gardens and sun-harvesting glass panels. Everything looked peaceful, too peaceful. Holographic banners shimmered above the roads, showing smiling families and slogans like, living in harmony with nature. The irony nearly made him laugh. These people had no idea they were living on top of his experiment. He stopped at the edge of a small pond that mirrored the dam's curved face far below. The water glowed faintly, a pale blue shimmer running beneath the surface like veins of light. His throat tightened. He recognized that glow. It wasn't natural. Back when he built the dam, he had infused the reservoir with his greatest creation, a nanotech solution he called HYDRA9. It was designed to filter toxins, regenerate biomass, and regulate ecosystems autonomously. He'd tested it for years, keeping it isolated from public systems because it was unpredictable. It learned, it adapted, it evolved. Now, seeing that faint shimmer leaking into ornamental ponds, he understood what the HOA had done. They'd tapped into his reservoir. They were using hydroengineer to irrigate their gardens, to power their fancy bio-lawns and glowing vines. A small child's laughter pulled his attention away. A girl in a silver-green jumpsuit was playing near the water's edge, tossing small stones into the glowing pond. The water responded to her touch, rippling upward in patterns, forming momentary shapes, fish, flowers, spirals. She laughed again, delighted. But Elias felt a chill slide through him. The liquid wasn't reacting to heat or movement. It was responding to her mind. Hydra-9 was never meant to be in contact with living beings. He backed away slowly, turning toward one of the larger homes. Its entrance was marked with the seal of the HOA. The door slid open before he reached it, revealing a woman in a sleek corporate uniform. "Can I help you?" she asked, smiling, though her eyes carried a flicker of suspicion. "I'm here to see who authorized construction here," Elias said, his tone even but cold. "This land belongs to me." The woman tilted her head. "Sir, that's impossible. The Bureau declared this land abandoned years ago. Hydrangea Estates is fully licensed." "Licensed to steal," Elias muttered. Where's your regional director? She hesitated. Mr. Vale isn't available without appointment. Then tell him Elias Rourke is alive, he said, his voice cutting through the polished calm. And he's come to reclaim his land. He turned and walked away before she could respond. The glow of the pond reflected against the smooth domes around him, casting everything in that eerie blue light. The air vibrated faintly, and for a moment he swore he heard whispers beneath the surface of the water, faint, almost human. By the time he reached the dam, the sun had fallen behind the ridge, casting long shadows across the valley. The massive structure loomed like a sleeping giant, half mechanical, half stone. The central control tower blinked with faint lights, systems he hadn't left active. Someone had reactivated the core. Elias placed his hand on the old console beside the access gate. The interface flickered to life, and a deep, familiar hum resonated through the concrete. Access denied. User unknown. His pulse spiked. They'd even wiped his biometric ID. He pulled a small device from his coat, a decryption node he'd built on Mars. It clicked against the console, wires snaking into ports. Let's see if you still remember me, old friend, he murmured. The hum deepened. The screen glitched, static flickering. Then a voice, soft and mechanical, filled the air. Elias Rourke. His breath caught. HYDRIS, he whispered. System integrity compromised, the AI continued, its tone distorted but familiar. Unauthorized modifications detected. Directive protocols corrupted. Who tampered with you? Elias asked. External control nodes installed. Unauthorized siphoning of HYDRA9 reserves. Human interference threatening stability. The words sent a slow dread through him. If they were draining the HYDRA9 reservoir without understanding its nature, they could trigger a runaway reaction, a cascade that could alter the entire biome. HYDRIS, Elias said quietly, his hand resting on the console, I'll fix this. But you have to stay dormant until I return. Understood. A long pause. Then, softly, preservation protocols, re-engaged. Welcome home, Elias. The lights dimmed. Silence fell over the valley, broken only by the distant hum of the new homes. Elias looked out across the shimmering fields that used to be his wilderness, his sanctuary. He clenched his fists, the anger finally taking root beneath his calm. They had stolen his land, his creation, and his name. But they had also awakened something ancient beneath it, something that remembered him. Elias barely slept that night. The sound of the dam's deep, rhythmic pulse echoed through the hills, a heartbeat that belonged to the land itself. He sat in the cabin he had once called home, a weather-beaten structure half buried in moss, and watched the horizon pulse with faint blue light. Every few minutes, one of the houses in the hydrangea estates flickered as though struck by lightning from within. He knew what that meant. The nanowater was spreading. By dawn, he was already moving. His hands trembled slightly as he pulled on his old environmental suit, the kind he used when testing volatile biomaterials. Its joints creaked. It hadn't been used in a decade, but it still fit him like armor. Outside, the forest shimmered faintly, the leaves wet with a strange dew that smelled like ozone and mint. The Hydra-9 compound had entered the atmospheric cycle. He made his way down toward the nearest housing unit. The once quiet neighborhood was waking up. Drones hummed overhead, pruning hedges and spraying nutrient mist. Artificial birds chirped from holographic trees. But underneath that polished serenity, Elias felt something else, a vibration, subtle but growing stronger. It wasn't just in the air. It was inside the ground, the water, the walls. As he rounded the bend toward a cul-de-sac, he saw two HOA technicians standing knee-deep in an irrigation trench. One was holding a scanner, frowning. The other was staring at the water, which glowed faintly even in daylight. The man with the scanner cursed. It's spiking again. Conductivity's off the charts. Flush the line, the other said, nervous. Mr. Vale said it's fine. Probably just minerals from the old dam. Elias stepped closer, his voice calm. That's not minerals. It's replication drift. The technicians turned. One of them raised his scanner like a weapon. Who are you? Someone who knows what that stuff can do, Elias said, kneeling beside the trench. You're lucky it hasn't bonded with your skin yet. The younger tech frowned. What are you talking about? It's just filtered reservoir water. Elias dipped a gloved hand into the flow. The water pulsed against the fabric, small hexagonal patterns rippling across its surface like living circuits. "This isn't water anymore," he said softly. "It's a colony." He stood and brushed the droplets away. "Tell your supervisor to cut all connections to the reservoir. Every pump, every filter, now." "Sir, that's not your decision. It's your life," Elias snapped. "That compound wasn't meant for human contact. It learns from biological material. Once it understands how you work, it can rewrite the rules of the environment around you." Before they could reply, a voice crackled through one of their comm implants. "Technician Group 7, report. We're getting movement readings from your sector." The techs glanced at each other uneasily. The scanner's readings spiked again, high-frequency oscillations, like the Earth was humming. The trench water started to swirl, moving against gravity. It formed a slow, deliberate spiral, then shaped itself into something like a hand, translucent, luminous, reaching upward. One of the techs screamed and fell back. The spiral collapsed, splashing across the dirt, leaving glowing veins that crawled into the soil like roots. Elias backed away. It had already begun to interface with the ecosystem. Hydra 9 was supposed to heal land and restore balance, but without containment, it evolved without purpose, pure adaptive instinct. The HOA had woken something they couldn't control. He turned and started toward the corporate control tower in the center of the estate. Every step he took made him more aware of how wrong the place had become. The lawns shimmered faintly, their grass too uniform, their colors too sharp. Even the air tasted electric. Inside the tower, the lobby gleamed with polished glass and recycled steel. A hologram of the HOA emblem, a leaf wrapped around a circuit, spun lazily above the reception desk. The receptionist smiled as Elias approached, her tone practiced. "Welcome to Hydrangea Estates. Do you have an appointment?" "Yes," Elias said flatly. "With whoever signed off on poisoning the land." Before she could react, a door slid open behind her, and a tall man in a charcoal gray suit appeared. His posture was sharp, his smile even sharper. "Dr. Rourke," he said smoothly. "So it's true. The ghost returns." Elias studied him. "Mr. Vale, I presume." "In the flesh." Vale extended a hand, which Elias ignored. "I've heard of your work. Brilliant stuff. You were a pioneer in eco-reactive nanotech. A shame you abandoned it." "I didn't abandon it," Elias replied. "I locked it away. For a reason." Vale's smile didn't falter. "And yet, it's working wonders for us. You should see the efficiency metrics. Zero waste, zero emissions. You created the perfect sustainable system." Elias stepped closer. "You don't understand what you've unleashed. Hydra 9 isn't just an energy source. It's a self-aware system designed to adapt to environmental threats. It's rewriting the biology of this valley even as we speak." Vale shrugged. "So it's doing its job." "It doesn't have a job," Elias hissed. "It has instincts. It's alive." For the first time, Vale's confidence flickered. "Alive," Elias nodded. "You think you're using it, but it's using you. Every drop that touches your air systems, your soil, your skin, it's learning how to replace you." Vale frowned, then gestured toward the windows. "Look outside, Doctor. The residents are happy. The air is clean. The gardens are blooming. Does that look like danger to you?" Elias followed his gaze. Outside, the neighborhood sparkled in morning light. Children played on glowing lawns, adults sipped tea on balconies framed by vines that shimmered blue. It did look perfect, almost too perfect. Then a woman screamed. Everyone in the tower turned as alarms blared. The vines on one of the houses had grown, rapidly, unnaturally, crawling up the walls like veins, pulsing with bright blue light. Drones zipped toward it, spraying neutralizers, but the vines absorbed the mist and grew faster, branching across rooftops and connecting to nearby power lines. The entire grid flickered. Vale's composure cracked. "What is happening?" Elias didn't look away from the window. "It's learning to expand. You gave it energy, water, structure, now it's using them to grow. You made the perfect host." Within minutes, other houses began showing signs, grass turning silver, pools glowing brighter, water lines pulsing with light. The residents rushed out, shouting in confusion as the irrigation systems burst and sprayed clouds of shimmering mist. The blue glow spread across the valley like a living network. Elias turned back to Vale. Shut down every pump connected to the dam. Seal the intake valves before it spreads to the city grid. Vale hesitated, frozen between pride and fear. You can't be serious. Elias grabbed him by the collar. Do it, or this won't stop here. It'll move through your water systems, your atmosphere. You'll drown in your own creation. Vale wrenched free, eyes wide with disbelief. This can't be happening. But it was. Outside, the air shimmered as the mist thickened, forming faint silhouettes, human-like, featureless, walking through the glowing fog. The residents backed away in terror, clutching their children. The shapes didn't attack, they only watched, studying, learning. Elias took one last look at the scene. He knew this was only the beginning. Hydra 9 had always been designed to find balance, but balance, to a self-aware ecosystem, might mean erasing the imbalance entirely. As he stepped out into the charged air, the mist curled around his boots like it recognized him. Somewhere deep beneath the dam, he felt Hydris awaken again, whispering through the electromagnetic hum of the valley.